moving through this world in ways that will keep us safe and provide for the people that we care about, this do it at all costs mentality, even in efforts to, take care of ourselves, take care of each other, like, can look really messed up. In the show, we've seen the way that a lot of people, by nature of just surviving, have had to do really shady things that have caused other people harm. And, you can take the common saying among folks on the left, right? There's like no ethical consumption under capitalism. And I think, that's in some way true. Like there's no ethical surviving in like this post-apocalyptic world. But, how do you think about like navigating those boundaries and like when it's okay to cross those, like when is it okay to hurt people in order to like get what you need?
That's a really great question. And I think that it is important for us to look into ourselves and see like, yes, our ancestors we have experienced violence and trauma and have handed it down, but they've also handed down survival, resilience, joy. And I think for me, I always think about how will this impact the world that we are fighting for? Does the theory of what I am doing match the practice of what I am doing? Because if I cause more harm in the long run, is it really, is this really an action I want to take? And I think that it comes up a lot in the show where folks ask like, what can you do nonviolently in this situation? And I think that's a question for folks. It's like, how do we, when we saw Ellie, they've gone through a fascistic schooling that has taught them basically to be a child soldier and to dehumanize others. Seeing Ellie's to the beginning to playing with the gun and, even smelling the gunpowder on it to the moment when they actually had to enact violence, I think it's a question to us about what does it cost us to subscribe to a white settler colonial way of thinking, either when it applies to violence, when it applies to protection. What are the frameworks that we can utilize now and practice now that can inform how we operate in the future?
Yeah, I hope that nobody listening to this podcast is ever on like either side of a gun in those situations, right? And like those might not be like the most like applicable frameworks to think about, right? I do think the show does a really good job of like not making it a video game, because like at this point in the video game through episode 4, you've killed hundreds of people probably like thoughtlessly, in this show, like every person who has been killed, right? You're thinking about like the Fedra soldier who like Joel knew because he was selling him drugs before, or like even the 3 people in this space. And I'm trying to think if any other people were killed in episode 2, but like they did a really good job of like helping us understand that like violence is personal. Like that kind of killing is attached to a person who has a family, who has a story, who's a valued part of community, right? And, Ellie processing, having done that, or at least caused harm, hurting someone in this time and space, like is really reconciling with the cost. I was listening to the official HBO The Last of Us podcast, and, as we're thinking about now, episode 4, Ellie crying like after she shot the person. One of the creators was talking about how like she wasn't crying because of what she did. She was crying because she didn't feel like she was strong enough to like finish the job. And like, what cost is that this world already taken on this person, where like that's the thing that they're thinking about, not necessarily like Brian and Brian's family. And like, while I just met him and he was trying to hurt me just now, like I have now like set into motion things that will end his life, right? Joel has been dealing with those things for years and years based off of all the things that he's done over the 20 years to survive, right? In his mind, survive. And right, it's a really good framework to think about.